Trybe House started back in 2020 in the peak of lockdown, and myself, Stefan Livingston, our wellbeing lead, and Shanubi Ruth Bailey, our creative producer, got on the phone to respond to making a space for young black men to come to and explore their own feelings, to be able to have referrals. But a lot of it came from some reports within the last few years about the disparity of black men who are accessing mental health companies when they're feeling challenges and stuff like that. So we had a conversation over the phone, really. And ever since, the rest has been history. We were public facing in 2021 when lockdown started to ease. Fast forwarding now, we're really excited to have Brixton House as our home.
And I guess to kind of add to the context, both myself, Phil, and Shanubi all went to school together. So we're from South London, we're from Croydon, and I guess some of the thinking was what kind of spaces or environments would have made a difference to us. Theatre is such a beautiful way of kind of supporting positive mental health, and kind of bringing those things together of kind of being from South London, knowing the challenges that young black men in London face, although we're not explicitly limited to London, but then to now, as Phil says, to be in Brixton, which is kind of like one of the major heartbeats of
my
the
grandma's
whole of
from around the
London.
corner.
So
She literally lives up the road.
Yeah.
And we've had our own kind of connections to Brixton. So it feels really right for us to be here, and as well as the building being accommodating, it feels like a community of people. You know, how did CASA start?
So CASA started in 2007 by this man, Daniel Goldman, who's a director and playwright, and he trained in Argentina when he was like 19 or 20, and came back to London, was working in different kind of theatre things, and was like, there's no Latin American plays in our theatres being talked about, being read. So it actually started as sort of a plays in translation reading in a crypt in Holborn in 2007. And then it moved to Oval House, former Brixton House, in 2010. And it was an annual festival of Latin American theatre. I had lived in Mexico City when I was younger and came back to London and was so miserable. And I found it, and I actually harassed him a bit on Facebook, I think, at the time, and was like, can I volunteer? Can I volunteer? And I started volunteering. Lied about my age, they thought I was much older than I was, but sort of started this really nice relationship where I'd volunteer every year. And it was like really special. The work that was there was just so interesting. Now we've done a few different things here, which is just so great. And actually, I think the word CASA does mean house or home. And it's just so lovely to feel like we do have a place, and a place where we can open the doors also to other people and other organisations also interested in. We speak about this a lot, about being like part of an ecosystem. We're not really interested in it being like all about us. We're really interested in it being like we happen to be a branch of a much bigger tree, and we really love that kind of more collaborative approach.
Yeah, I really resonate with that, because we initially started by just sort of facilitating workshops. Then we found that work was being created from those workshops. Then it's evolved into some of them becoming playwrights, and some of them being involved in directing, producing. So that evolution has been really exciting to witness, and actually, in terms of the trajectory of the next couple of years, it'll be really interesting to see where things go.
That's so interesting. Yeah, we have this, so Gabby came to CASA originally as an invited curator for a visual art exhibition here at Brixton House, because Gabby has another collective called Not the Owners. And then from that working relationship, we've developed this. And
yeah, and I think I really resonate with what you are saying, because I think iteration is so important for organizations. And just talking about CASA and this new stage, I'm really excited that we are now in Brixton, because I was mentioning to God earlier how important is me as a Latina, but also as a Caribbean women, to also connect with other communities from the Caribbean. I think it makes total sense. It just feels kind of right to be in Brixton House. It actually feels like home. And it's really interesting to have come first as a creator and then be in this position of being the head of programs, kind of shaping also all together the program for CASA and kind of dreaming and shaping also for new communities and kind of finding those point in commons with those communities. I quite like it. Yeah, I'm quite excited about that.
To add to that, I think like that's something that's, once you're in a building like this, like we embrace like such open arms and it's so like friendly and loving and stuff, but I think we also want to act like for people that don't feel that they have access to here.
All of these things are about connecting with the community, bringing in the likes of ourselves. Ultimately, it's about Trybe is about developing and strengthening the community bonds between young Black men who have a shared interest in theatre. But actually, everything about theatre is kind of like, or creative expression is kind of like an output, but actually all of the things behind that, those relationships, those hopefully improved psychological well-being, all of those things in the background that I know Brixton House are sort of really believe in.
Yeah.
And that for me personally, so I guess just to give the context, my role is in well-being. I'm not very creative. I can draw a very good stick man.
You are. He's very creative.
But my background is sort of working with young people in spaces like CAMS, within social care. Now practicing as a doctor. So my lens, I guess, is very much so on what keeps people well.
That's so interesting to bring that in though to a theatre content, because actually just when you were saying that I was thinking, God, when you make a piece of theatre you are like this, it's a community, it's a sort of sometimes dysfunctional family, but you're making in collaboration, you're learning from others, you're working, you know, in different ways, and that's so, I think it's really interesting to be looking at this like art form from your perspective as well. That's so interesting. What do you have something coming up or in the next like chunk of time that you're like artistically or emotionally really excited about?
Yeah, super. Yeah, well, we're in the thick of a project that was curated and developed by Ruth Bailey called Trybe Tales, which is actually a dream we had from the very beginning of making the company. So we're really grateful that Brixton House have been able to support us to actualize and visualize and actualize that. How about yourselves?
Well, I'm really excited of what's going on now because we have, well, let's say that first we have this 8 intense month thinking around like how we can use this time we have with Brixton House and think in another kind of program of shifting a bit how CASA have worked so far, because usually CASA have more like a festival moment in October, but now we have this opportunity of using the space for a full year, right? So we were like, okay, let's make the most of this time at the space and let's bring people together. And then I have the chance to shape this little baby that is Lines of Lights for another world of possibilities, which is also what we were talking before about new ways of imaginations, to stretch its imagination, ways of create art. So that's why we were talking before about senses and how can we make people experiment art in another way.
Yeah, and I think also just to add to that, we're really interested and have been for like both of us in our practices and also CASA as an organisation, like in process, in process-led work rather than product-led work, but also in inviting people and sort of to experience, to question, to be a part of process. So how can we let audiences come in and maybe like understand how a rehearsal is happening or how someone's in their studio painting or making some interesting work? Like that's something that for us, like we're really excited about. And yeah, just opening those processes up so people can experience them.